2 months before graduation, Lena's dorm room was reassigned. A surprise this late in the year. But she didn't question it. Finals, applications, deadlines, her head was already somewhere else. Her new roommate arrived just after midnight. Pale, quiet, unreadable. She carried no suitcase, only a worn black and white photo. She pinned it above her bed without a word. The photo showed their school, but older, off. The building was the same, but the sky in the photo was darker, the shadows longer, warped. In the image, students stood stiffly, dressed in old uniforms. No one smiled. Beside a strange, overly formal headmaster stood a girl, with a familiar empty stare. Lena barely looked at the photo again. She was too busy, too tired. Her new roommate didn't talk, didn't eat, didn't blink. She just watched, quietly, from her side of the room. At first, Lena tried to be polite, but conversations fizzled. The girl spoke in whispers, if at all. And when she turned her head, she always avoided the mirror. Stranger still, Lena's friends never mentioned the new girl, not once. When asked, they looked confused. They thought Lena still lived alone. 2 weeks passed. One morning the girl was gone, her bed made, her photo gone. Lena thought maybe she'd moved out. The dorm supervisor stared at her blankly. There was never anyone else assigned to that room, she said. Lena laughed at first, then she stopped. That night, whispers began above her ceiling, scratching, tapping, footsteps, coming from the sealed attic, abandoned after a fire decades ago. Lena tried to sleep, but the sounds above her head grew louder. Soft footsteps, something dragging across the floor. The attic had been sealed for years. No one should be up there. She dreamt of the girl, standing at the foot of her bed. Her mouth didn't move, but Lena heard her. "Help me, before it's too late." The next night, drawn by something she didn't understand, Lena climbed the narrow attic stairs. They creaked like they hadn't been touched in decades. At the end of the long, dusty hallway stood a mirror. Tall, freestanding, framed in dark, carved wood. Its surface shimmered, like water under moonlight. Lena stepped closer. She could see her reflection, but it looked slightly delayed, slightly wrong, like it was thinking for itself. "Please," the voice whispered again. "I don't want to be alone." Then the mirror rippled, and a pale hand reached out, fingers thin, ice cold. Before she could scream, the hand grabbed her wrist and pulled her through. Downstairs, the dorm was quiet, still, except for one thing. The photo above the bed had changed. Lena was in it now, standing beside the grim headmaster, expression blank, eyes heavy. The photo didn't move, didn't whisper, didn't scream. It just hung there, quiet and still, like that was all that remained of her. She woke in a hallway that looked like her dorm, but it wasn't. The lights were dim, the air was thick. Everything felt like it was underwater. She walked in circles. Every door led back to itself. Every clock ticked in reverse. The windows showed only fog. There were no voices, no breeze, just silence that pressed on her chest like a weight. She wasn't alone, but no one answered when she called. Shadows moved at the edge of her vision. Figures drifted across the halls. Their faces were gone, erased, melted, as if forgotten by time. They didn't speak, they only stared, faceless but full of torment. Some pressed against the walls, others floated just above the ground. Through a flickering mirror, she caught glimpses, other girls, eyes wide, mouths open in silent panic. Like her, like the girl before her. They were trapped too, moving through endless corridors, visible for only seconds, then swallowed again by the fog. Then came the voice. Not a whisper, but something old, deliberate, measured, It echoed without sound. "You have 1 year," it said, "to return, to recruit, or to become one of them." It wasn't a warning, it was a rule, unchanging, spoken by the man from the photograph, the headmaster. She wanted to scream, wanted to refuse, but the Faceless were closing in, their silence more terrifying than any threat. And so she agreed, not with words, but with her fear. The world shifted, and she was gone again. A year passed. In the halls of the other side, there are no clocks, but you feel every second stretch, like thread pulled thin. And then, release. A door opened, a thread tugged her forward, and Lena stepped into a different world, a different school, a new dorm, a name whispered once, then forgotten. No one asked where she came from. No one could find her on paper. She picked the top floor, a quiet room, one with a mirror, just like before. Above her bed, she pinned a new photo, a different school, same headmaster, and now she stood beside him. Her new roommate would arrive soon, hopeful, unaware. The cycle was beginning again. Lena watched the mirror carefully, eyes sharp, smile thin. She had 2 weeks, and she could not fail.